Sports fans,
Sports lovers.
welcome back to another episode of Global Sports from a Caribbean perspective. The best games, the best teams, the best players provide you with the best takes on a Caribbean perspective right here. And I'm your host today, Shabba, and I'm here with.
Dubs.
And we're back with your VSPL Gameweek 11 review, where the title race is getting a bit out of control. System 3 is running away with it. Mid-table race is a bit heating up, and the relegation battle seems to have being finalized, if we're being honest. So let's get straight into it, and we'll get to the first match of the weekend that took place on the Thursday, April 30th, which saw Jebelle and System 3 facing off. System 3 keep marching on like champions elect. But let's be real, this could have been a bit different. Two penalties for Jebelle in the first half, which was saved by System 3 goalkeeper Dennis Grant. That's not luck, that's elite goalkeeping right there. Because we have been known to calling out the goalkeeping this season in the VSPL. So shout out to Dennis Grant. From there, System 3 took control. Zibian Cunningham opened the scoring in a goal mouth scramble, and Kareem Davis sealed it in the second half. There was a red card for Jebelle, but at that time the game was long gone. Thoughts as System 3 continue to run away with it?
Yeah, shout out to the keeper again, Dinesh Grant, outstanding. If I must say so myself, and to save two penalties and ultimately come out of that match with a clean sheet says something about it. And I know for a keeper especially, it would mean the world to him, and for System 3 and their coach as well. As much as they've been blowing teams out of the water, we've known them to, give away a few goals at the back. And, it was great to see that they, despite the two penalties, could come out with a clean sheet as well. Hard luck to Jebelle. Was it the same kicker for both
No,
penalties?
Delano Benjamin was the first kicker, and then Sherwin Alexander took the second penalty.
So again, it's just huge praise for the keeper again for, it's not like he had to face the same man, and he has knowledge, probably prior knowledge of this individual, and seeing him kick a few penalties. This is two different players, and Sherwin Alexander is a talented player himself too, so you would expect him to talk it away. So yeah, I feel like this game was all about Dinesh Grant. Credit again to the Zibian Cunninghams and
Kareem Davis scored the second one.
didn't no need for Azina Solomon here. And as they shown before, they could do it without him. Not that he wasn't on the field, but without his goal scoring output. So yeah, credit again to System 3, professional performance. If I do say so, especially after giving away the two penalties in the first half, they were a bit more composed and organized, and yeah, defender of Jebelle really well there.
Yeah, very professional performance, one must say. It's their first clean sheet in a bit. So I expected a bit more of a resistance or a fight from Jebelle, who came out with a bit of a whimper. I'd have to say after those penalty saves. Credit to Dinesh Grant, as you mentioned, two wonderful saves. I think both went in the same lower right hand corner. So well done to him, and props to System 3 for maintaining the lead at the top of the table. And from the league leaders showing resilience to a team making a serious push behind them. Layou versus Not Leeward Predators. This was a statement win. Layou didn't just beat Predators, they controlled them. All the penalty from Wendell Coffey set the tone, and Gidson Francis finished the job. Calm, composed, and efficient. That's now 3 massive points that pushes Layou into second place. The penalty was won by Garrett Ledgett Wood, and Garrett Ledgett Wood also set up Gidson Francis for the second, so he was very crucial to the win. Thoughts on Layou winning the Leeward Derby?
Yeah, I guess that's a good way of putting it. All Leeward Derby. I think that they went into the game with that in mind, and know that all the Leeward teams, especially when they face off against each other, is a heated rivalry, and I guess Layou went in more face of the two. Not Leeward. Well, I expected to put up a bit more of a fight, especially with Layou showing us a bit of inconsistencies recently. Sometimes, they get a draw here, a game they look like they were going to win, and they drop 3 points. So
Sure.
we have been seeing some inconsistencies with them. So to be very honest, I think it's a bit of a surprise for them to, deal with
Predators.
not Leeward in such a manner, and to walk out with it with a clean sheet. as I've been saying, I think they boast they boast this firepower in the front, and but I also say that they are one of the most organized and defensive teams in the league. I believe like there are quality players all over, and there really aren't no weak points that they could identify in Layou. They just really haven't put it together on a consistent basis. But yeah, again, just a huge shout out to them for dealing with Nollywood and such.
Yeah, I have to agree with the point that you made in terms of them dealing with Predators so comfortably. You mentioned that they have firepower up front and also defensive solidity. They have actually conceded the least amount of goals in the championship thus far, so that's a credit to them. But as you also mentioned, maybe they haven't been able to put everything together because they've been very inconsistent for all of the talent that we know that they have. And for most of the season, let's say most of the first half of the season, they look like the team most likely to challenge System 3. They're now 7 points behind. I don't see them clawing that back so easily because System 3 would have to drop points 3 times at least for that to happen, and they would have to continue winning. So it'll be a hard task for them. But in terms of the best of the rest, they certainly look like it along with not Liverpool Predators who they overtook. So it's just a case where they got the better of Predators on that day. But maybe if the game was played today, Predators would have come out with a 2-0 victory. And that's just a tale of how both teams have been a bit inconsistent throughout the season. And speaking of, and while Layou strengthened their grip at the top of the table, the battle at the bottom of the table is just as intense. So we move on to Bequia, who took on Hope International, and Hope are quietly doing what matters most at the moment, winning when it counts. They defeated Bequia by 1 goal to 0. It wasn't pretty. Zaydan Simmons with the goal, but the real hero was Elran Baptiste, who saved a penalty for Hope International in the second half from Kamal Bess. So that's discipline and that's showing survival instincts after a long stretch without winning a game. They've now gone back-to-back weeks winning against teams who you would expect them to beat in Avenues and Bequia. So thoughts and hopes, little mini resurgence.
Yeah, it just shows where they are in terms of the quality they have compared to the teams in the cellar positions. As I said, they haven't really put in impressive performances per se. But I can point to they have become a little bit more solid when defending the set pieces.
True.
Which I kept pointing out all in the season. So
True.
I noticed they have, mapped that up a bit. And yeah, if I'm correct, two clean sheets in a row.
No, they conceded last week against Avenues.
Okay, small team, but at least, walking away with a clean sheet, as we say, was a scrappy goal. A low delivery. Very, very, very hard for, the defenders to expect something like that. But at the same time, defenders who are playing the top division, St. Vincent football, should be able to, react and deal with it, and they didn't. And with that came a very good reaction at the back post to finish. So credit for Hope doing what they were supposed to do. I thought that Bequia looked the more threatening of the two teams. I think Snag had one of the best chances of the game with the great save again from
Baptiste.
the Baptista who pushed it over the bar, pushed it onto the bar and over the post. So credit again for Hope doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, you beat who you're supposed to beat, and they got the 3 points.
Yeah, so credit to Hope and credit to Elran Baptiste. This is another goalkeeper that we're shouting out. Because let's be consistent. As much as we've been criticizing goalkeepers, one must credit them when they've been doing well. And Baptiste, along with System 3's keeper Grant, have shown to stood out very well this week. Both keeping impressive clean sheets, both saving penalties, and both basically giving their teams respective victories. So shout out to Hope, who have now, gotten themselves into a bit of form, albeit not playing the most exciting stuff at the moment. Nyran Delclash with the corner, and the ball went to the back post to Zaydan Simmons, who is one of the brighter players in the attack. Doesn't always get through with what he's attempting in the attack, but he's never one for lack of running, basically. He always puts in an effort. So shout out to him for getting his name on the score sheet. I think that's his second goal of the season. So, and speaking of comebacks and resilience, we move on to Besco Pastures, who took on Avenues United on Sunday. Besco Pastures defeated them by 2-1. Avenues started strong, however. Xavier Jack with a quality finish. One must say that was probably one of the best goals of the weekend. Started on the right wing, drifted in past a few players and slammed a pistol into the net. But Besco, they have a different mentality, as we've seen throughout this season. Cardell Tibbles equalized from the penalty spot, and he then converted an excellent cross in the second half, like a striker would, like any striker would be proud of, to complete the turnaround. So Avenue showed some promise, as we mentioned on last week's episode, that they're not for lack of trying, but still not enough quality where both attacking and defending is concerned. And Besco came out with the win. So thoughts on the game?
Yeah, well, I was really excited to see Avenues come out on the front foot. They look really ready and raring to go. Honestly speaking, with their approach, they look like they saw a shark. They were the shark in the water, and they saw food, and they were ready to pounce. And they did so early. I must say that winger was very exciting. He he had the defender on a string, really and truly.
For sure.
Defender couldn't cope, and it was a brilliant finish. The keeper was cemented to the spot, and then it persisted, and then somewhere in there it stopped. There was a change in player positioning. Cadel Hector wasn't in the game as much as he is normally, more instrumental than he was, and I think he wasn't involved as much. I think the left side of the attack wasn't as good as the right side. And then they tried to see how they could change that by putting the same Jack on the left side in the second half, and that didn't work. And by that time, Besco had already taken control of the game, and then by the time you look, it was 1-1 and 2-1, and that really, blew the wind out of their sails, and they took the game away from Avenues, and it never looked like they were gonna come back into the game. I alluded to their set piece threat, but I must say that Besco posed the same type of threat with the Nelson Lewis.
True.
From corners and from free kicks alike, and I think he was more precise and more threatening and deadly with his opportunities than Cadel Hector was. So yeah, all in all, it was a good comeback, good response from Besco Pastures, and hard luck to Avenues.
Yeah, this is a game where I'd say both teams aren't necessarily separated by a lot of quality. It was just a matter of fine details that decide games at the end of the day. Um, it wasn't for lack of trying, as we mentioned. Avenues know the situation that they're in, and we could see that they're playing desperately to get points on the board. But I'd say that what we saw from Besco Pastures is a bit more organization, a bit more understanding of what they're trying to do when they have the ball, and just a bit more cleverness up front, whereas Avenues are a bit more sloppy and careless with the ball when they get to the final third, especially. So it's not a case where Avenues aren't putting in any effort and they're out there just giving away games every week, but their final product is what is killing them on a weekly basis. Dumb decisions, I'd have to say, in the back and going forward as well, because they basically give away a penalty almost every week. And that's not sustainable, especially when you don't have, a goalkeeper in the goal. The penalty that was scored for Besco, Coach Hayed went to the right side of the penalty as well, and I'm sure if it was a more nimble keeper, probably would have gotten an opportunity to save it. So I think their fate is sealed at this point.
100%.
Sad to say, but that's what they've reduced themselves to, and they're gonna have to pay, for the consequences. As for Besco, they're going to maintain, they are going to remain, a solid Premier Division mid-table team, and more luck to them. So we move on to the final game of the weekend, which saw Awesome FC take on Camdonia Chelsea. Awesome coming out with a 2-1 victory. Not the prettiest, but they all count. Giovanni Enville with one of the luckiest goals you'll see this season. But hey, strikers live for those. It was his fourth goal of the season, and we highlighted him last week, and there he was again in that position to take advantage of the opportunity. His attacking partner Kareem Williams doubled the lead, rising highest from a corner. In a bit controversial manner, however, as the goalkeeper for Camdonia, I'd have to say looked like he was fouled on that incident, but it was not called, and Kareem Williams headed home. And despite a late push from Camdonia, where Barack Barber headed home, a late one, it was a bit too little, too late. Also, Chelsea would feel a bit aggrieved as well that they did not get a penalty. That seemed to be a clear penalty in the second half, as one of their players was attacking and he made a cutback in the box and seemed to be tripped, but it was not called. It was not called. So who knows what might have happened, but these are the inconsistencies and the refereeing inconsistencies that we have been mentioning throughout the season, and I'd have to say that it probably cost Camdonia some points here. But what are your thoughts on the game overall? We mentioned that this would have been one of the better games this weekend.
Yeah, it definitely was. The goal to Karim Wilson, I think I played it back a few times and it looked like it hit off the glove of the keeper, but I could be wrong. I believe it was our own goal. There was a great ball in from Millington and into the area of uncertainty really, and the goalkeeper and defenders, wasn't sure who could get it or who would get it and who should get it. And then that's why we saw what happened there. But I think Arsenal really bossed the game. I think Chelsea kind of still lacking that, like how we can point to a Chad Straw,
Enville
a Giovanni Enville,
and Williams.
Williams, or even Zeddy Milton in midfield pulling strings from time to time. I as much as I say Luke is probably one of my favorite players in the Premier League, he hasn't been as prolific as you would like your number 10 to be, as threatening as he is. And he, every time he's on the field, he causes problem. He throws his body into the way, and he's not the tallest of figures on the field, but you could see that he's willing to do anything for Chelsea and die on the field for the club. And you need players like that, with that same kind of desire around, but at the same time with the same kind of quality and talent that could help. And I feel like Chelsea kind of missing that.
For sure.
And when the ball does get into the box, because they, as you pointed to last week, they create chances and they always look like something could happen. But when the chances do fall to someone, they can't capitalize on them. And I think that's one of the glaring things about Chelsea I've been seeing in the past few weeks, and that could be hurting them big time as well. I saw the penalty and I think there's a bit of a dive in there because I think he went down a bit too softly, and obviously the referee agreed to. The referee told him to get up straight away. But of course, being a Chelsea fan, supporter, board team member, or whatever, you
Would feel
would feel aggrieved. So yeah, I would say good going for Awesome. They let in a late one. I think it was really poor. No communication. The guy had a free header, and the keeper was really, really upset that he lost a clean sheet there. But all in all, it was a great performance from Awesome.
Yeah, I think Arsenal would be very happy with their performance and their season thus far. They're currently fifth in the table, on 17 points. And I'm sure that Coach Gavin Thomas and his staff would be very pleased with where they currently are and their performance levels thus far this season, because they have competed very well against the better teams. They've shown a consistent performance level, I'd have to say. We mentioned from earlier on in the season that their front three looks like one of the most threatening, and every week we see either Stroh or Enville or Williams on the scoreboard. Millington and Josh DeGrads in midfield seems to be forming a good partnership together, and onwards and upwards for them. As for Chelsea, I predicted them to win, and solely for the fact that I thought that they just have enough to frustrate the likes of Enville and Williams, but they weren't able to create enough, despite them having an identity and knowing what they're about and knowing what they're trying to do. As you mentioned, maybe they're just lacking a bit of extra quality in the forward area to capitalize on their good play. So it's not for one for trying for Chelsea as well, because I'd say that Chelsea and Arsenal aren't really separated by much either. Maybe the difference is just the forward area. So credit to Arsenal for coming away with a well-deserved victory. As for Chelsea, tough luck. And that wraps up game week 11 and the fixtures from game week 11 as System 3 continue to lead the way. We'll move into the match week awards.
All right, so player of the week, we have Dinesh Grant from System 3, 2 penalty saves, game defining, title winning mentality. Big up Dinesh Grant between the sticks. All right,
Team
so
of the week.
team of the week, Hope International, back-to-back victories, and now clear of the relegation zone. This is the hope that we would like to see going forward, and we ask that you guys just keep it up. Whether it's ugly, whether it's scrappy, 3 points is the way to go. Let's go, Hope.
So yeah, back-to-back wins for Hope after only getting one win since match day one, and they are now clear of the relegation zone, as Dappy mentioned. And let's quickly recap the table. As System 3 remain on top on 28 points. They are currently 7 points ahead of Layou in second, who overtook Mount Leeward Predators, the defending champs, who are on 19 points. 1 point ahead of Jebelle in fourth, who are 1 point ahead of Awesome in fifth, who are 1 point ahead of Besco in sixth, who are 2 points ahead of Hope, who are 1 point ahead of Chelsea, who are clear of Bequia and Avenues at the bottom of the table. Bequia are currently on 4 points, while Avenues still remain without a win on 3 points.
Look at that boy, Hope leapfrog Chelsea just like that.
That's crazy. And in terms of the most goals, the Golden Boot race, Azino Solomon, despite claiming a hat trick last week, one of his goals was taken away by the goals panel and it was credited as an own goal. So he remains on only 17 goals at the top of the goal scoring chart. Still followed by Kobe Mingo and DL Spring, who are both on 9. Garrett Ledgett Wood on 7. And Zibian Cunningham, who was the only one to score this weekend, got himself up to 6 goals so far this season. So let's head straight to game week 12 and preview this weekend's fixtures, which will be taking place at the Brighton Technical Center at the Brighton Technical Facility again. So the first game of the weekend will see the defending champions, not Leeward Predators, take on Jebelle. The first game, Jebelle won 1-0. Predators will want revenge, and Jebelle will want to prove that that was not a fluke. So can Jebelle do the double over the defending champions?
They can, but they won't. I believe this game would be the draw this weekend. I feel there's not much between the two teams, and of course, the game in the first round showed us that much. I mean, as much as it was 1-0, it shows you how thin of a margin, thin of a
Not much between
not
the two
much
teams.
between the two teams. So, yeah, I would go with a 1-1 draw. 1-1 draw between Predators and Jebelle.
Okay, so I'll have to go with. This is a tough one because, like you mentioned, both teams, it's very difficult to separate them. And I'm trying my best to find a way to convince myself that either of these teams will come away with a victory. And I'll just have to go with the fact that Predators will want to pride themselves after both teams are coming off of a defeat, first thing first. Hmm. Predators wouldn't want to go out with a whimper because I'm sure they know that they're not going to retain the title anymore. I could see them being more up for the game than Jebelle, who would have less to play for. So I could see Predators coming away with a slim 2-1 victory. Moving on to the second game of the weekend, which will see Avenues United take on System 3, which is top versus bottom. The first game ended in an 8-2 ramp to System 3. Simple. Is there any chance for Avenues to avoid another heavy defeat? That's the prediction here. Can Avenues avoid a heavy defeat?
Avenue surprised me, but I really don't believe that they could compete with the likes of a system tree, where they could frustrate them and bring it down to the dying minutes of the game where system tree need to fight and scrap for a goal to get 3 points. I believe that very early we are gonna see a goal, and often we are gonna see goals. So answer to your question, Shaba, is no.
I'll keep my answer quick. Is there any chance of Avenues avoiding another heavy defeat? No. Moving on to the third fixture of the weekend, which will see Hope International take on Layou. The first fixture ended 2-1 in favor of Layou. So both teams are, you could say, in form. Hope have won their last two games, while Layou would still have outside hopes of winning the title. So can Hope derail Layou's momentum?
Feel so? Yeah, I feel like they are going to frustrate you, simply because of the point I alluded to earlier, is that you don't know which Layu you're gonna get on the day. As much as they have been solid in defense, at the same time you're not too sure how much they are gonna score if they do.
True.
So I think this is one of the games that it could be very frustrating for them, and I'm gonna say Hope is gonna come out with a 1-0 win.
Oh, well, that would certainly be a very surprising result based on what we've seen so far from both teams thus far this season. Because even though you have been up and down, I'd say that Hope have been more down than up this season for sure. And that would be certainly a surprise. So I'm gonna go with what I've seen, for the majority of the season thus far, because if that does happen, that would be very much a surprise. And
Absolutely.
I'll go for a 3-1 Layou victory. Moving on to the fourth game of the weekend, which will see Camdonia Chelsea take on Besco Pastures. First fixture ending in 1-0 to Besco. Two inconsistent teams fighting for stability. Who finds consistency first in this game?
Let me go with Besco. I think they have been more consistent than Chelsea, even though Chelsea, had that purple patch where they got things together and started moving upwards. I believe over the course of the season, Besco have shown us more of an identity, whether it's from the back or going forward. Last game they were led superbly by Captain Tables. So yeah, I'm going to ride with Besco on this one to say that they will do the double over Chelsea, 2-1.
And here's where I'm going to have to agree with you this time, because you mentioned Camdonia's purple patch. It seems to have hit a bit of a stagger in their last two game weeks. While Besco, we know what we are gonna get from them for the most part. However, I could see this game petering out in a draw.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I could see this game petering out in a 1-1 draw, where both teams would show similar levels of intensity. I think it would be a game where the two teams know each other very well. A lot of the players are from same areas, so South Leeward area. So I could see the game petering out in a draw that leaves neither team really happy. And moving on to the final game of game week 12, which will see Awesome United take on Bequia United. Awesome FC take on Bequia United. First game was a 1-all draw. Bequia are still searching for their first win. So is this the game where they finally get one?
Nope. Nope. Yeah, we're gonna get. I think it's gonna be a trashing, bro. As much as the first game ended 1-all. Especially if they get about the likes of a charge through. Yeah, I believe it's gonna be a trashing. And let me don't go crazy. A minor thrashing.
Minor trashing.
3-0. 3 goals to 0. Awesome.
I'm gonna have to agree because we've mentioned throughout the season how good we consider Awesome's attack to be. We've noted and highlighted Bequia's inconsistency and poor to horrible form. So there's only one winner there when that matchup is going to happen. I wouldn't say that Awesome has been free scoring, however, right? But they have better players in attack, and I would expect them to convert at least one or two chances to get the 3 points comfortably over a whimpering Bequia United team. So I'm going to go with a 2-0 victory for Awesome as well. And that wraps up our preview and predictions ahead of Game Week 12 this weekend in the Vinci Soccer Premier League as System 3 continue to ramp towards the title. Before we go, Papi has some shoutouts.
So you know how we do it. We give flowers to who deserve flowers, and this week we just want to shout out Handel Roban and Veral Sam. Handel Roban did exceptionally well, setting a new national record in the 1500 meters in a time of 3 minutes 40 seconds and 99. And Veral Sam, he set a new 100-meter hurdles record, 14.62 seconds, and also amassed 6,052 points in the decathlon. So shout out again to Handel Roban and Veral Sam for the tremendous work and the outstanding performances. Big up yourselves.
Yeah, so shout out once more to Handel Roban and Veral Sam for their incredible achievements in the world of athletics. And you guys deserve your flowers. We are here to give you that. And we will continue to do this going forward every week. So that's a wrap of this episode of Global Sports from a Caribbean perspective, the place where we provide you with the best games, the best takes, best players, all from a Caribbean perspective right here on Global Sports. And I was your host today, Shabba, and I was here with
Daps.
and we continue to turn our passion into purpose. Remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, tell your friend, tell someone. One Global.
Global.